Welcome on into another edition of Nate Hit the Foul Pole. I am Matthew Pine, one of your co-hosts. My other co-host is Zach Goodman. Zach, how are you doing?
Doing good, Matt. I'm excited for tonight. We've got a great interview coming up with KBO executive, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, a little bit of a different guest from what we're used to. Typically, we have, some maybe Orioles-focused people on the podcast. We've had Jordan Katz on. He did a Birdland Rewind. We've had, Oriole minor leaguer Willie Yawn. But this is, gives us a little chance to look into a different perspective in baseball.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of Orioles-focused folks on, but right now there's not a lot of Orioles content to go around, so we're branching out a little bit, and KBO is a pretty hot topic, so we're excited to talk about it.
Yeah, hot topic of the day. Have you been watching any KBO games at all?
It's electric. I have, and it's it's a hitters league. I mean, that's the first thing you notice. Lots of home runs, lots of great contact hits to the gap. I mean, it's exciting for sure. I've been very enjoying it. It's good.
Yeah, and as Oriole fans, we're probably used to a little bit of offense, either for us or against us. But
yeah, for sure, and a lot of former Orioles in it. Dan Straley, Min-Soo Kim. So that's definitely fun to watch. I know I was watching Straley a little bit last night, and he put up a 7-inning shutout. It was amazing, and I wish he had done that for us, but yeah, hey, it's okay.
Yeah, Dan Straley, like you mentioned, Min-Soo Kim, Odrisamer Despaigne is in the league, which is fun. Some names from the past.
Yeah, on opening night, there was two Orioles pitching against each other in a game, and I thought that was just fantastic. I mean, you can't get better than that. So, I don't know if it's necessarily a great thing to have a lot of your former players in overseas and not in MLB anymore. That's not it doesn't speak great things for our organization, but it's definitely fun to watch them now they're over there.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that with some. So speaking of some news of the day, some baseball news, we don't have a whole lot to talk about, but it was finally announced that the MLB draft will officially be 5 rounds. I know there was much speculation that it could be 10 rounds, but I think, some money factors kind of played into that being only 5 rounds. But, the Orioles have 6 picks, so it should be interesting to see how this thing shakes out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of controversy around this 5 rounds. I know our friend Justin Labor is very upset about it, and many are in the baseball industry because there's hundreds and hundreds of guys that were going to get drafted, and then are not going to get drafted now, and that's not a great thing, but it's just what has to happen right now. I know a lot of people want it to be 10, 20 rounds, but 5 is what we're going to get. And I think as Orioles fans, we should be appreciative of this because we are still going to get that top talent. Like Matt said, we're getting 6 picks. So that's really pretty good. It's going to add some elite talent in the top couple of rounds. So I'm pretty appreciative of it. We're going to have any draft at all. I was pretty worried we weren't going to have one. So I'm not too upset. I mean, sure, I would have liked 10. I would have liked 20. But it is what it is. And I think with the whole Corona situation, this isn't too much of a big deal for me.
Yeah, and, it'll be interesting to see, especially how the first couple of picks pan out, just because we haven't really seen these guys for full seasons, whether it's a high school player or a college player. I think the 2 top probably consensus picks at this point are Spencer Torkelson from Arizona State and Austin Martin from Vanderbilt. If you had your pick of the litter, Zach, who would you eye up for that number 2 overall pick?
Well, I if I were to pick one of them, I like Torkelson better. I see what a lot of other people see in that this is power that we haven't had in a lot of drafts in the past. I think, Andrew Vaughn last year and Adley Rutschman may have had just about as good power, 65 grade power or however you want to grade it. But, I'm more of a Torkelson guy. I don't love his being a first baseman doesn't have a lot of positional versatility. First base is not something the Orioles need, but you don't draft for need. So I do think the Tigers will take Torkelson, but I will absolutely be very pleased with Martin when we take him at 2. And I think he's a nice college bat. Still needs to find his place defensively, which is fine. And I think it's going to be a great premier talent installation into the organization.
Yeah, well said. Another guy to eye up maybe at the 2 pick too is Asa Lacy, the left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
He's got some really, really good stuff, and I think he's probably the best pitcher in the entire draft. I know there was some speculation about Emerson Hancock maybe being that dude this year, maybe being even the number 1 pick overall. but some durability issues really hurt him last year, and it remains to be seen where he's going to land. I mean, there's speculation still to be in the top 5, but guys like that, teams get scared off real quick.
Yeah, also Lacey's interesting because kind of a late riser. I mean, I don't think a lot of people expected him to be in the top 3 conversation with Hancock and Torkelson and Martin, but he's risen there. And he draws a lot of comparisons to some great left-handed pitchers, maybe like a Mike Minor or even a DL Hall, who we have in our own organization. Lacey, he has really good stuff. As our friend of the podcast, Chris Restatar, has noted, I mean, 4 really good pitches, which is hard to come by, especially for a lefty. Good velocity, great movement on the slider. So he's another guy I really wouldn't be upset with it too. I do think that in the Orioles situation, we don't exactly need a premier talent in an arm right now. I don't know that pitching is our number 1 need. I think Martin and Torkelson could definitely do a little bit better for this organization than Asa Lacy would. But if that's what it comes down to, and Mike Elias and the rest of the scouts and the rest of the Italian talent evaluators like him more than Martin at 2, I'm going to be perfectly fine with it.
And our good friend Justin Laborde chimes in here. He said, "Lacy, Lacy, Lacy." Justin, I would agree. I mean, I would be fine with Austin Martin at 2, but Asa Lacy, another arm in this system, really can't hurt, especially if you want to grow the arms.
Yeah, and I think you just have to look at who do you think has the higher ceiling, Martin or Lacy, and we don't really know. I mean, Martin, I think, comes from a better program, being at Vanderbilt, and Lacy's from Texas A&M, so a little bit of a school difference there, but they're both great baseball schools. So you take the best available, like Justin just said, and I think you roll with it. I think Mike Elias is going to make a great pick. He made a great pick last year. He almost went with JJ Bleday out of Vanderbilt, so he likes the Vanderbilt players. So I'll be perfectly happy with any of those guys.
All right, so moving on to some proposals that the MLB has put forth. It looks that we're inching. I don't know what the right word to use there is, but we're coming close to a proposal finally being put forth and potentially accepted to play some baseball this year. Looks as though that would occur in some point in July. With the spring training at some point in mid to late June. Initial thoughts on the timeline, Zach?
Well, this is all, again, Manfred putting out things that may or may not happen. So none of this is certainty, but I do like what they've put out, the season starting June 10th as spring training 2, and then taking off around June 1st to 4th. July 4th would be a great time to start the season. So I'm excited to get baseball back in any form. Obviously, we won't be able to go to games, but I mean, it's going to be great to watch them on TV. It's going to be great to have something to do in watching baseball. And, the KBO is great. It's taken up a good amount of time for a lot of us right now. But I think we all want to see, MLB back and as soon as possible. And if they follow the guidelines that the KBO and other leagues in Asia that, that have done this so far and have come back in the coronavirus situation, I think we're going to be in good shape. I don't really worry about, I think they tested 6,000 MLB employees today, and only 0.7% of them came back positive for coronavirus. So we're looking pretty good. Everything's looking up. As long as we can get back safely, I really like the timeline. June 10th seems pretty good, and that's the date for the draft as well. So that'll be a great day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. Especially I think they want to do this. I think they want to do it right, though. I think no fans in the stands might have to happen initially, and maybe the whole season, we don't know. But it'll be good, for the psyche of us baseball fans, just to have something to root for and something that we can watch live. And even in the stands watching it, at least we can do it in the comfort of our own homes. So I think it's something definitely to look forward to. I know our good buddy Jordan Katz mentioned on Twitter, he was like, well, how does it work with the stats now? Are we counting these stats as like official stats for an 81-game season?
Well, I think that you have to look back on seasons in the past, in the 20s and 30s, before we really had a regulated amount of games. A lot of games were 134 game seasons and 144, and so there's always going to be some variation in stats. I don't know if you can exactly take the 162 game season and get too upset about it only being 80 games. Players are going to get a lot of at bats, at least 200 to 300. I think it's pretty legit. You're still going to get mainly pretty legit stats out of these guys, so I'm not too worried about that. But that raises the question, Matt, if a governor or whoever it would be would raise the social distancing and you could go to a baseball game, would you?
Me personally, I probably would not, until there's like a vaccine out there. It's more about me like infecting others and like myself. Like I would just have like a bigger issue if I was like the carrier or something, just because I went to a game, So
Yeah.
I probably would sit that one out. And then, once I feel comfortable, once there's like an effective treatment or some sort of vaccine out there, then I would have no problem doing it. But, if you're going to game with like thousands and thousands of people, that's just, enhances your risk. So what about you?
Probably same as you. I'd take all the necessary precautions if I had to go to a game. I think that we'll see what the CDC says and all the, higher powers that control all of this and control these guidelines. So I can't make a call on it yet, but I probably wouldn't go as of right now. But if I did, definitely take the necessary precautions. I can't wait until the day that we can. Hopefully 2021. That would be great. But for right now, TV will definitely do almost as good.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we get baseball in 2020. There was one final proposal set forth by the MLB, and that was just basically tweeted out a few hours ago by Jim Bowden, who seems to be somewhat of an insider, if you will. He's a former GM, so he probably still has some contacts within the game. Universal DH. What do we think about that possibly coming to the National League?
Well, I think this has been needed for a while now. I don't really think that this is a bad thing at all. I always think it's ridiculous that two leagues are playing completely different games. And I just don't understand that. I've never understood that. I get it. It's traditional for both leagues to do this, but I think almost everyone wants the universal DH, and now it's finally going to happen. And it's probably going to stick. Honestly, it's probably going to stick. And you're probably going to see National League having a DH for the rest of time because pitchers batting is just not exciting. It's not great. They rarely do well. You have your pitchers like Greinke and Kershaw can get a few hits here and there, but most pitchers are pretty terrible hitters. They don't really practice it. It's a wasted spot. Some of them can't even get bunts down, which is, not great in today's game. So I'm all for this. I'm very excited for this to happen. It's ridiculous that we're playing two different games anyway in the National and American League. So I'm totally in favor.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Madison Bumgarner, and I think it was Jake Arrieta. They were like, putting some things out there saying we want to be in the home run derby. Like, why can't pitchers participate in this too? And maybe that's like a sideshow type deal. I don't really see them going against like Giancarlo Stanton and those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, I can't see Aaron Judge losing to Madison Bumgarner. As good of a hitter as he is, you're not going to win that one. So, and I'm sure he does have a bunch of raw power. He's hit quite a few home runs in these past couple MLB seasons, but I just don't really get excitement personally out of watching National League Baseball because, you've got a guy in the 9-hole that can't get a hit. They're going to bat 150, 200 a season, an OPS of like 400. So it's just kind of a wasted spot in a batter's lineup. So I'm totally for a DH. It's going to open up lots of opportunities, maybe for a guy on the Cubs like Kyle Schwarber, who may not get as many at-bats, and, who can't really play left field very well, is going to get more at-bats now. And that's something that's really going to take shape.
I think especially if they open up these roster sizes instead of like a 25-man, a 28 or a 30. I mean, you're going to have players that like that's their only job. They're the Delman Young, if you will, of their team, and that's going to open up some jobs that weren't there in the first place. And if they're really going to reduce the amount of minor league teams, there's going to be baseball players without jobs. So hopefully this opens up some more opportunity.
Yeah, I think this would be great for free agency too. And I know free agency is a hot topic right now among players. They're not happy. The union has some huge issues with this. But it's really going to open up a lot more guys to get signed. I mean, especially your DH, first base, left field type guys that generally might not get huge contracts are now going to get signed by the NL teams because they have an extra spot in their lineup to throw guys in like this, like a Kyle Schwarber, a Nelson Cruz, or someone like that. I think that's going to really benefit a lot of players. It's going to benefit teams. They're going to see higher output as far as home runs go. It's going to benefit a lot of people. But we brought up earlier, do you think this would affect stats throughout the National League? Do you think you'd see a huge rise in home runs, or do you think it would kind of stay stagnant?
No, I think you would see a rise in home runs for sure. Maybe just like offensive output, like in total. I mean, this entirely changes strategy in the National League, like the double switches, whatever other like pinch runners, pinch hitters they employ. So that will be kind of interesting because the one thing I do like about the National League, I think there should be a universal DH, but the American League kind of lacks that strategy piece. And like I think you saw like evident with a guy like Buck Showalter who managed the Diamondbacks. Like when he would get into interleague games, he knew what he was doing. Like he would employ these double switches, and it's like the National League had no advantage over him. So
yeah, and for the Orioles, I know that Dan Duquette used to follow the Earl Weaver guidelines of not trying to just score one run, trying to score a lot more. Hit that 3-run home run like Earl Weaver always wanted. So that's why Dan Duquette would always tell Buck Showalter really not to let his guys play small ball and bunt, and that's kind of the way the American League has gone. I know Brandon Hyde's tried to bring a little bit of bunting back and small ball for the Orioles because we can't really score runs otherwise. But that's just kind of a philosophy, I think, that's kind of been all over the American League that the NL definitely has more of. So you're right there. But it does go back to my point that pitchers still can't lay bunts down on command, which is such a problem. And it's they're still missing bunts, and they're not making great bunts down the line, and they're never beating them out. So I'm so for this. I can't wait till it happens, and I really hope it sticks.
I mean, it's not the 1920s anymore. Like, let's be real. Like, I understand they're baseball players, they should be athletic, but like the pitcher should have one job, and that's the pitch. Just my opinion.
That's exactly it. Like there's one job, and they do it really well. Most of them who are in the majors, they're very well versed at pitching. They haven't hit since high school. They didn't really hit too much in the minors. The starters generally don't go as long in the minors as they ended up going in the majors. So they don't get as many at bats, and it's just a really much more exciting game with the DH. And I do want to make a note with a guy like Dylan Bundy. He was one of the best high school hitters that ever played in high school. I mean, the guy would hit like 500, put up 25 home runs a year. He was an absolute beast, but cannot hit in the majors because who can? As a pitcher, you don't practice, you don't take much BP.
Zach Britton could, I can tell you that much.
Zach Britton did hit a home run in Atlanta. Yep. That's true. But again, guys like Madison Bumgarner, there's certain guys that it's just not really too commonplace to see pitchers do well. Bartolo Colon is obviously, you'll never have moments like that where, the one pitcher who never gets hits in his MLB career hits a home run and everyone flips out because he's big, sexy, and he's, as famous as it can get. And, but we'll never have those kind of special moments, but you're going to see a lot more home runs. It's going to be really exciting.
Getting to a couple of our comments here. We got Justin checking back in. 80 games or 162 games, Trout will still dominate every stat. I mean, this probably...
that's about right, but I think Austin Hayes is going to dominate a few stats too. Don't worry.
That is a hot
American
take.
League MVP coming at you.
Okay.
So don't worry. Yeah.
And Rookie of the Year? Still going to be Rookie of the Year?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
He's still eligible even though he came up in 2017, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And then
bats left.
Okay. All right. We'll see what happens. And then another comment coming in from Justin. He said, "Stick to crushing skulls, Arrieta." And yeah, he's had some spicy, post game pressers. Doesn't seem like he's the most warm and fuzzy dude on the planet.
No, I don't think a lot of the pitchers are. I generally, I don't think they really are. Arrieta's definitely not one of them. He's still probably salty that we traded him before he, won the Cy Young and became one of the best pitchers in the NL, but it's okay. I don't lose sleep over that.
Yeah, it's a very good point. There's been a couple of those guys, those former Orioles, if you catch my drift, who aren't really the nicest human beings, but we'll leave that to another.
We're not going to talk about that.
We'll leave that to another show.
quite a few guys.
Anything else on your mind here in terms of the proposals or where you think the season could be going? Maybe the playoff structure, how that looks.
I did hear a bit about the playoff structure and how it would change, and more teams might get in, and I'm not sure of the exact specifications of how this is going to work. I think that there will be more that will come out. I know the MLB is supposed to release an entire proposal very soon. I'm excited to see that. I hope nothing changes, but it probably will before it's all said and done. And that's okay, I guess. But yeah, I think that the playoffs will be a little different. Maybe a team that you don't expect to do very well slips into the playoffs. I mean, that's definitely going to be a possibility with only 80 games. A team that's hot, there's a certain chance that they could get in. That's something that, MLB is going to have to figure out. But, some of these middle level teams like the Phillies or something like that could easily sneak into the playoffs when they shouldn't have. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch too.
All right. I do want to now welcome in our guest, Mr. Sungmin Kim. Sung, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Can people hear me well in general right now? All right, cool.
We can hear you. We're good. We appreciate you coming on. If you don't know Sung, he's a former writer for Fangraphs and The Athletic, and he is now in the KBO.
Yeah, so Sung, welcome to the show. I'm Zach, and give us a bit of a background on your position with the Lotte Giants and what you do day to day.
Well, that's kind of hard to summarize. I work in the very brief version. I work in the R&D department. R&D stands for research and development for those who are unaware. And we cover a variety of things. I mean, research and development can mean a lot of things. And different various aspects of the game, such as players and technologies and training and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
so
you kind of work with analytics in that field. Is that something you take part in?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So what was the transition like from, going from a writer at The Athletic to a front office in the KBO?
Oh, it was a lot. I mean, first off, I was living by myself in a apartment in Seoul, just writing in my room or in a coffee shop nearby. And then I went from that to having to commute to an office in a stadium every day, working with other people. And this was not just the first office job after I graduated from college. This is also like a first Korean office job after I graduated from college. Yeah. So it's in some ways like because I spent a lot of my time like middle school to college in United States. I was much more used to being in an American workplace than in a Korean workplace. So that's also another cultural adjustment that I have to go through. But things have been very good. Things have gone well. And yeah, I'm pretty happy about how things have went.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure they're glad to have you. But you had offers from MLB teams to work in their front offices. Why did you choose specifically to go to the KBO?
Well, I think, at this moment, like, it's really hard to get into the details, but I'll put it this way. I realized I would be allowed to do more of what I wanted to do with the Giants and in the KBO than in the Major League Baseball teams at this moment. For sure. It's all baseball work, and I really appreciated interest and all the kind of stuff that I received from Major League Baseball teams. But it was pretty clear from early on that I would be able to learn more. I would be able to do more. I would be able to get my influence more with the team if I joined the Lotte Giants, and that's pretty much how I put it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, and you must be doing something right because your Lotte Giants are 5-0. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty good start to the season.
Yeah, and former Oriole Dan Straley is helping to lead that team.
Yeah, for sure. I've personally been very happy with how it's been, not only on the field but also off the field. He's been very obviously he's an MLB vet and he knows how to like carry himself, and at the same time he also has not been hesitant to learn from his teammates. For instance, like he learned his new curveball grip from one of his new Korean teammates, and like I mean, as soon as he saw the curveball back in the string chain, he just wanted to go up and ask and just learn from him, and he actually struck out someone with this yesterday. So that was pretty cool to see.
So maybe talking a little bit more broadly about the KBO, just talk about maybe some of the differences in like either gameplay or maybe in the rules. Like I noticed like there's 28-man rosters, and I saw a rule in ESPN that said like 3 foreign players are allowed to play in the same game. Is that true?
Wait, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Talk about maybe some rule changes, or I should say rule differences between the KBO and MLB.
Oh, I think the main thing that would stand out to players is there are ties here.
Mm-hmm.
Ties exist after 12th inning.
Okay.
So yeah, and I mean they're rare for sure, just that, but they do happen, and they exist. And in the postseason, I believe it's after the 15th inning. So there's a little less margin of error there.
I want to ask real quick about what goes on in the pitcher's mound. There is a little rubber piece that goes where the pitcher's foot is in the KBO to help them, gain grip. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that came to be?
What, you mean like a rosin bag?
No. I was watching some of the KBO on ESPN. And they were talking about how there are rubber inserts that go where the pitcher's foot usually is to help them gain grip. I'm not sure if you've seen that and the Giants use that, but I know that the LG Twins do. So I was interested to see, why they use that and why MLB hasn't adopted it.
Okay, you kind of lost me there a little bit. I don't exactly know what you're referring to.
No problem.
Slash, I'm not really a pitcher. Slash, I don't really work on the mound stuff. So I'm trying to think of what that could be. Maybe.
Yeah, they didn't give a name to it, but it's just kind of an innovation that MLB hasn't gotten around to, and the KBO is first to it. So I thought it was really interesting, and it's gonna change the game for pitchers, is what they were commenting on ESPN. So I was interested.
Was it from yesterday's game?
This was a few days ago now.
All right, I'm gonna have to look it up now. Now I'm curious.
No problem.
Mm-hmm.
So Song, maybe you can go into a little bit of the influence that MLB has in the KBO, and maybe vice versa. What influences the KBO had, if any, in the MLB?
So we're talking about MLB to KBO, right?
Yeah.
All right, for sure. When the KBO first started back in the 80s, the style of play was very much Japanese, like Japanese small ball, kind of like a swing down and throw a lot of pitches in the bullpens and all that kind of stuff. But I think during the 80s, once the flow of information started between the KBO and the Major League Baseball team, things started to change a little bit. And I mean, even in the 2000 and 2010s, there were still managers who had a bit more old school thoughts on how they operate their team. But I think teams have been more gearing towards the major league style lately. Like when I say major league style, it's more like hit extra base hits, try to throw harder to get strikeouts, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, not every team works that way right now, but it certainly seems like it's shifting towards that way in terms of trends.
Sure. Yeah. And then kind of a wrap-up question for you. Who are some names? Who are some of the more famous players to play in the KBO that have had the most success?
Former players in the KBO that have had success?
Yeah, like some names maybe our listeners are more familiar with.
Oh, so you mean the players currently in the major leagues or in the KBO?
In the KBO currently, maybe currently or in the past, that have been like really successful foreign players.
Oh, like Eric Thames and Dustin Nippert?
Yeah, definitely. Eric Thames, we know.
Yeah, Thames, Nippert. Nippert is like the exemplary guy on the pitching side, and Thames obviously the guy. It's like a go-to. Everyone references Thames. Mm-hmm. There's also been guys like back in the 90s and the 2000s, Jay Davis, who spent I think 6 or 7 years with the Hanwha Eagles. That's a long time to survive in the KBO. another player that people may not realize played in the KBO, but people here certainly remember him is Felix Jose back in the 90s and 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Felix Jose was actually an MLB All-Star back in like early 90s, and he played actually with the Lotte Giants in 1999 and 2001 and 2006, and he was very beloved here. And Julio Franco played for a year here in 2000 with the Samsung Lions, and he's a part of our coaching staff in the minor leagues.
Yeah, I think I saw you tweeted out a picture with Julio Franco, and I noticed that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. On the pitching side, I mean, Nippert is a very obvious one. Former Oriole Rick Van Den Herk was really good here.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
some names of note.
Yeah. The thing about foreigners succeeding here is that when you bring a new guy in, there's a lot of factors that could go right or that could go wrong. And I've seen a lot of players that come in that I felt were going to be successful, but they ended up failing. And at the same time, there have been guys who came here that I thought might have a hard time here, but they ended up succeeding pretty well. So you cannot really predict who's going to be good or who's going to be bad. You just got to I mean, one of my responsibility is just making sure that our guys are comfortable being here and with our team and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's like a big X factor in how that determines a player's success in a whole another side of the world. Mm-hmm. And because I've experienced it firsthand. Like I was once a kid who came from Korea to US, and it took me a little bit to get acclimated to the culture in the America and have a daily conversation with my friends. So personally, I kind of take from the experience back here in helping our American guys or our foreign guys rather get acclimated to culture here, because I'm just kind of thinking like, what would have been good to know when I first went to America, and I just kind of try to apply that for our players getting like acclimated here.
Yeah, well, Son, we certainly appreciate you joining the show, and we will be rooting on the Lotte Giants for the rest of the season.
For sure.
Thank you. Where are you guys at right now?
Pennsylvania and Maryland.
Yeah.
Oh, which one is in Maryland?
Zach.
That's me.
Oh, where in Maryland are you?
I'm up in Jarrettsville, actually.
What county is that?
It's in Harford County.
Oh,
a little
okay.
bit north of Baltimore.
A little bit up north.
About an hour north.
Yeah. I was like, why wouldn't I heard of Jarrettsville before? I actually never really been to Harford County.
Pretty small town.
Probably not too close to UMD, but
no.
No, I mostly hung around in Hoco, Baltimore County, and Montgomery County, and obviously PG County.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. Brings back good memories. I'll have to check out Harford County whenever I'm back.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a minor league baseball team here, the Ironbirds, so definitely come check them out.
Yeah. You still okay? That's the short season A team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Orioles. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thanks for having me on and talking about baseball in English. Always like gets me back to the old times. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Love talking to you, Song. Thanks.
You do.
All right. Well, that was our interview with Sungmin Kim. Definitely, provides a great insight and great perspective from the KBO, and that's kind of the hot topic.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I was trying to find what I mentioned there, but it was the new Brewers pitcher that was the KBO MVP last year that was referencing this on ESPN about the piece of rubber that goes in front of the pitcher's rubber. And I have no idea what it's called. I guess it's not.
You threw him for a loop, that's for sure.
What was that?
I said you threw him for a loop.
I did. I did for sure. But that's something that, when I guess it becomes more popular, it could definitely change pitching. So, and I think a lot of what the KBO does could be innovative and, change what the MLB does down the road. So, and obviously MLB teams are watching right now, probably not more than ever, but, with ESPN broadcasting a lot of the games, I'm sure they're watching a lot of the players and what the KBO does to make their fans interested. So I'm sure they're taking a lot out of this.
Anything else before we end it, Zach?
Not much. I'm just hoping baseball comes back soon. Hopefully, we get a firm proposal this week, and we'll have some great guests on here in the future to talk about the draft. And we're really excited about all the stuff coming up. So that's about it for me.
Yeah, and we would appreciate if you guys would go to our YouTube page and subscribe. That way you can, get a reminder every time that we do go live. And we're planning on doing this pretty much for every episode. Rather, it might be a regular episode or a Birdland rewind. But we appreciate you guys tuning in as always, and we will talk to you next week.